And welcome everybody to the Final Yard here on the Five Reasons Sports Network. I am your host Louis Sung, and I am joined by Michael Quirk and Andy Romero. Yes, Romero. I remember. Yes, I remember. I remember your last name. All right. So obviously, the Miami Dolphins did not win this game. The score was 17-33 in favor of the San Francisco 49ers, ending in about possibly the worst way you could ever imagine. And not only did Tua Tagovailoa go out at the very last minute with an ankle injury after that strip sack, courtesy of Nick Bosa, Skylar Thompson did not do any better. He got one attempt to throw the football, and he immediately threw an interception right to Fred Warner, who was literally standing out there waiting for the ball to land in his arms. So, plenty of blame to go around, and we will discuss all of those things, and we will, believe me, we are going to have plenty to talk about. But first, before we go any further, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, our sponsor for this show is PrizePicks.com. It is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 2, 3, 4, 5, and now even 6 different players to go over or under their fantasy points projections. So I actually had the over on Tua Tagovailoa throwing 270 yards, which technically he did beat. I also had the over on Patrick Mahomes. We'll see what happens with that. I did also have the under on Christian McCaffrey rushing yards. That didn't happen because the Miami Dolphins were not able to stop the run, but that doesn't mean that you can't still win big. You can go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit from the moment that you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, spell that out, FIVE, prizepicks.com. They are our official fantasy sponsor here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. All right, gentlemen. So let's be real about something here. Most of us predicted this game to be a 49ers win. We didn't trust the offensive line. We didn't trust that the defense would be able to stop them, really. We didn't trust a lot of things. One thing we did trust, though, was Tua Tagovailoa. And it turns out that even that trust was misplaced today. If we're going to be perfectly honest about things, this was probably Tua Tagovailoa's worst game as a professional football player. He did not look sharp from the very start. He started to come on near the third quarter and the fourth quarter. He was starting to look really good with that deep pass to Tyreek Hill, but just some things didn't go our way. Trent Sherfield did not really catch a pass, and Kyle Shanahan challenged it. And then the same thing on fourth down. Mike Gesicki did not really catch a pass, and Kyle Shanahan challenged it. I guess he has a sixth sense about these things because we very, very easily could have tied the game at that point. But after that, all momentum shifted to San Francisco, and it just seems like if Tua had just been average, we would have probably had a pretty good game. We might have won this game. So now the question becomes, because he did throw 2 touchdowns, he had his moments. The question becomes now, what kind of a grade do you give Tua Tagovailoa for what he did in this game? Because if I'm going to say anything, I'm going to probably just say I'm going to give him a C, simply because it looked like he was going to be the worst thing ever, but he had his moments and he was able to at least put up enough to get 2 scores out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, Andy. What's your grade for Tua in this game?
I feel like he had 2 or 3 good drives. I can't give him more than like a D plus, C minus. Like, it was really odd.
That's a pretty big gap there between C minus and B plus, Andy.
No, D plus.
Oh, a D plus. Oh, I heard B. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. No, he didn't look like himself. I don't know if it was a situation, bright lights. I don't know if it was a defense. He had a clean pocket a lot of the game, making really uncharacteristic throws. It was really odd. I'm still trying to take it all in, man. He made right fourth quarter comes in, Tua turns on like he always does, and he makes big throw after big throw, and then that drive before that unfortunate fourth down that we didn't convert, he looked great that drive also. So he came back on, but just a little too late, and the ball didn't roll our way on some of those fourth downs, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that I don't know. It almost feels like the game was too big for him, and I really don't want to say that because that has some very, very deep implications for the future, especially considering the playoffs. Michael, what are you giving him as far as a game letter grade?
Yeah, I'm right there with Andy in D plus or C minus. That first half, my God, the amount of throws that he just kept missing up, that he had seemed like a handful to Waddle that he just kept missing high on. And then you had that wheel route to Jeff Wilson that could have gone all the way. He was just – it was it was like I was watching a different quarterback out there. That's not the Tua that we've seen. That's the Tua that the negative talking heads have even been talking about the arm strength and so forth. No one's really doubted the guy's accuracy, and he was just all over the place. He did come on a bit in the second half. I mean, I can't blame him for that first interception. That's a timing pass. Fell down, picked off. But my
I
God,
can blame him.
what a bad throw on the second pick. The second pick was just horrendous. And so he made a couple good throws in the second half, but that was the worst we've seen him play all year, and it's really not even close in that regard.
So now this is the question, because you know how we are. We overanalyze everything, and we're going to look at this game really, really hard, because this is arguably the first time that Tua has really faced a defense that you can say, yes, this is a top NFL defense, and this is what it looks like. So do you put this more on just Tua struggling in big games? Because there are a lot of people that have saying that, like for instance, from Nick Hernandez, every time a game matters, he seems to fold. But how many games have mattered so far this season? How many games? And if you really think about it, let's be honest real quick. Did this game actually matter? Is this game matter because it was a statement game? Because it was about facing an actual top team? Or are we talking about this game mattered in the sense that Miami's playoff hopes? Because as far as the playoffs go, this was an NFC matchup. The 49ers have no bearing except for just lowering our overall record. Head-to-head matchups are still in our favor for the most part. So why does it matter so much? Does it matter because of that, or does it matter just because you wanted to see the Dolphins beat what is considered a top NFL team?
I'll say this. I felt emotions today throughout the game that I hadn't felt in a long time as a Dolphin fan. That might be because of the fact that we have never really been in this position where we can take control of our division. We can take control, possibly number one seed. Chiefs just lost. Where you expect your team to really be that top 3, top 5 team. So it hurts because, like, damn, we had this game in our hands. We messed up constantly on defense, on offense. Baker covering people he shouldn't cover. No one covering McCaffrey. Really, like, throughout all phases, a lot of hiccups. And even then, you had the chance to win it. So it's like, it's frustrating. That's what I can say. It's really frustrating. Even though we kind of expected them to lose, without Armstead, without Austin Jackson. But that's what I feel. The game didn't really matter. You're still going to make the playoffs. Now, does it matter for division winning? Yeah. Sure. You can still beat the Bills again. That might give you the heads up. But it matters for the division, but you're still making the playoffs. It's not huge implications. And I do want to comment on, Tua showing up in big games like, Ravens, it was early in the season, but he showed up there. Buffalo was a big game at home. So I don't want to get to that point yet where, damn, maybe Tua doesn't show up for these games because he did in college and he has so far this season. I really don't know what happened today, though. That today was strange. Besides 3 drives, it was very strange.
I mean, I can take a guess what happened. Tua Tagovailoa was not comfortable. He did not look comfortable from the jump, and I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of Teron Armstead. When you become so, I almost want to say that Tua is spoiled. I really, really do. Because when you have somebody like Teron Armstead able to basically anchor that entire offensive line, and then suddenly you don't have him anymore, you feel the need to step up your game to the point where you basically have to feel like you're a one-man army. And I can tell you from personal experience, just in my job, just to forget the NFL, my job, my day-to-day job, when you feel like that you have to be a one-man army, you end up making a lot of stupid mistakes that normally you wouldn't make. Because you're all up in your head, you're all up in here, you can't think straight, and things end up going wrong. And I think that's exactly what happened with Tua Tagovailoa. Teron Armstead makes this whole offensive line so much better. But just having him there makes such a difference. And I'll be fair to the offensive line. It wasn't like they were bad today. Don't misunderstand me. Aside from not being able to block Nick Bosa, which it seems like every big play that has stalled on offensive drive was because specifically of Nick Bosa. Aside from that, though, the offensive line was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. They really were a lot better than I thought they were going to be. And regardless of whether they were able to block or not, Tua felt like he wasn't able to do anything. So I don't know how you feel about it. I want to know what your thoughts are.
So for the big game thing, that's something for all the Twitter memes about the dog and him and so forth. That really is something that's inside of you. And coming in when he did in that Georgia game and that touchdown pass, and I believe it was 3rd and 25 or 2nd and 25, to win the national title. I in his 4th quarter QBR, obviously off the charts, and he's played well in big games at the end of big games. So I don't worry about what Tua has in him in the game. And let's look, no quarterback is immune to bad football games. Tom Brady's had bad football games. Patrick Mahomes has had bad football games. It's bad quarterbacks who have bad game after bad game after bad game. So this is kind of the one that you try to wash your hands of and move on. And that's kind of how I'm approaching it, that I'm not taking this game and forgetting everything else that we've seen of Tua this year. And so we'll see in prime time against a guy drafted right behind him. You need a win to continue that momentum toward the playoffs. Where I'm frustrated with where this game was this is a really good team. It's not exactly a measuring stick. We're in a stretch measuring stick games. But you're playing a really good team on the road. Their quarterback goes down early, and you're going up against a Mr. Irrelevant, a rookie quarterback, and you can't get the win there. You hold San Francisco to 3.5 yards per carry running the ball. They're held to just over 5 yards per pass attempt. But you go 0-7 on 3rd down. You reach the red zone one time. It was there. If Tua had played like he had been playing up to this point, like you said, Liz, you very well have a chance to win this game. And with how difficult it's going to continue to be, staying out west, have the Chargers during primetime next week, then you go to Buffalo, and you still have Aaron Rodgers. I know the Packers aren't anything to write home about, but you still have Aaron Rodgers coming to town. You've got 2 more divisional games after that you have to get wins when you can get them. And this seems like a gettable game, and the Dolphins just didn't play well. And I also think that it's Tua didn't seem comfortable, that he didn't have faith in the offensive line, giving him time of being able to let plays develop. And so he looked a little jumpy at the start, and all those missed opportunities come back to bite you in the ass at the end. And that's what happened. And they let a winnable game against a good team slip through their fingers. You have the Patriots lose. You have the Jets lose. You could keep pace with the Bills with a win. The Chiefs lose because not only the playoffs, not only the division, but that 1 seed, not too terribly far off. You win this game, you are in the 1 seed. But they let it slip through their hands, and they're really, really going to need to bounce back next week because a trip to Buffalo is no walk in the park.
And let me be clear about something, because there may be some misunderstandings here. Nobody here is blaming the offensive line for what happened in this game. We are blaming Tua. We are blaming Tua for this game. But the reason we bring up the offensive line is because Tua does not have faith in that offensive line without Armstead, and it causes him to make these mistakes. So that just means that Tua's gun shy, and it's something that he's going to have to work on as time goes on. We have to take the good with the bad sometimes. And in this case, it just seems like if Tua's going to have to learn how to get past this stuff. I am sure that right now he is kicking himself up and down the sidelines and up and down the locker room, feeling like he's the reason that they lost, because in many ways he was. Yes, the defense could have done better. I don't feel like there should have been as much success as there was against Brock Purdy, who was literally the last player drafted in the entire NFL. So I'm not going to let Josh Boyer off the hook for what happened. But again, if the offense is doing well, then this is not even an issue. Because a lot of what happened is because the 49ers had short fields, because 1 interception, 2 interception. And then at the end of the game there, that strip sack by Nick Bosa, Skylar Thompson at the end, just like throwing it up there and saying, well, I'm not going to get to do anything anyway, so I might as well just see what happens. Like,
fall on the ball. 3 guys there looking at a football. I don't care if it's an incomplete pass. Fall on the ball. I will never understand that. I see it in college. I see it in the NFL. I don't care if you think it's an incomplete pass. Just fall on the damn football. That drove me nuts. Of course, the game out of reach essentially at that point anyway, but that drove me absolutely bonkers watching that.
Like, you know what drove me nuts, man? Yo, McDaniel in that film review this week with the team is gonna go crazy because on that 4th and 1, where Zach Zieler had McCaffrey there, he had him stuffed, and then you got Eric Rowe in the back. Yeah, 4th down, logged up. He's still moving. Boom, 1st down on a really essential 4th down play. You got other boneheaded plays that I got a bone to pick with Josh Boyer today, bro. Like, why are you using Jerome Baker to cover Kelsey or any good tight end on a 4th down on a 3rd down, man? That's like begging for trouble. And then they took them 2 quarters to start putting men on CMC in the passing game. Like, that frustrated me. On the defensive side.
And we can also bring up this. We can also look at Mike McDaniel a little bit too. And you know why? Because it took until the 4th quarter for him to start actually trying to run the football. How many rush attempts were there before by the time the first half took place? Like 5 total, and the rest was Tua throwing the ball. Like, Mike McDaniel's thing, he was supposed to be the run game coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. Where's the run game? Why are they not trying to get the run game? I'm starting to feel like that Mike McDaniel is falling into the same trap that Don Shula fell into when he got Dan Marino tossed in his lap, which is that, oh, well, we have an elite quarterback. I'll just sling it around. But even if I do think that Tua is elite, you cannot let him be the whole offense. You can't. Tua is not Patrick Mahomes, okay? Patrick Mahomes is not even elite. Elite is not even good enough for someone like Patrick Mahomes. He's an alien. He's not real. He's a figment of our imaginations that we are all having fever dreams about in Kansas City. He can afford to be the entire offense. Even Josh Allen in Buffalo cannot be the entire offense for that team, and it's showing itself because the Bills are having some struggles. So to lean everything on Tua and to say, you're the guy who's going to do the entire... No. You're not that good, man. You're no one is that good except for maybe one guy in the whole league. And even if you want to say, well, Dan Marino was that good, they didn't win the Super Bowl, did they? They got there once in the entire 18 years that Dan Marino played football. So it's very, I understand that it's very easy to fall in love with the passing game. And I know that Miami has one of the best passing games in the NFL, at least by numbers. That didn't happen today. And that a lot of it comes to do with the fact that they did not try to run the ball. Like, even if it doesn't work, you still try anyway. Because once you do what you did and you let the defense pin their ears back, Nick Bosa was chomping at the bit to take on Brandon Shell, chomping at the bit to take on Greg Little. That's not Teron Armstead out there. Like, the 49ers can get away with stuff like that because they have Trent Williams, who you could argue is even better than Teron Armstead. They can do that. Miami cannot do that. They cannot do that.
And to your point, like, when we were making that comeback, when we didn't convert the 4th down on that weird Gesicki play, you saw how open the offense was, and we were getting yards after yard after yard because they were running the ball. Mostert and Wilson were finding holes. Like, it opened the whole offense again, like it had been all year. It was so uncharacteristic. It was just pass after pass after pass. And, you made sure Tua didn't lose confidence, which it seemed like he didn't throughout the game. He still did his throws, but that's not how you can run offense. To your point,
yeah, there were a lot of mistakes were made. Most of it was on Tua because, again, if Tua just has a decent game, Miami could have very easily won that game, and I don't feel like it's unreasonable to think that. But I will say that, again, what Mike McDaniel needs to do now, he keeps talking about adversity and stuff like that. This game needs to be a learning experience for him because now the Tua being undefeated when the games that he plays and finishes, that's done. He finished, well, I mean, technically he didn't finish the game, but I don't think that's a technicality. He finished the game. They basically took him out because he's done. But that being said, what I'm going to say here now is that, again, this has to be a learning experience. Mike McDaniel needs to take what happened, understand that, okay, I still have some things to learn. Just because I have moved on from my teacher doesn't mean that I know everything there is to know about football. He still has a lot to learn. So does Tua, by the way, because I know we want to accelerate his growth, and I made the declaration that Tua was elite. And even elite quarterbacks have bad games. That's true. But this is something that you need to take from it, and you need to say, okay, hopefully this is a lesson we learned. We realize that we can't keep doing this over and over again. Yeah, we even heard Mike McDaniel joking about it during his mic'd up last week, right? Talking about, hey, would it be absolutely ridiculous if I just went ahead and threw the ball on every down? And like, it was funny because we won the game. But yes, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous to throw the ball on every down. Because I understand if, they can't stop you. Well, Tua's not very sharp right now. Don't you think it's a good idea to give him some help? There's giving him confidence. Like, I believe in you. You go out there and you just keep chucking the ball over there. That's not an excuse for having an unbalanced game plan. That is not an excuse. And I'm going to continue to blame Tua. See, the problem is that everybody wants to, if we talk only about Tua, then this show lasts literally 10 minutes long because we've already said all there is to say. So now the question becomes, what do you learn from this? Does Mike McDaniel take this game, realize that, maybe I should run the ball a little bit more. Maybe I should give Tua some help. And maybe if he's not doing so good, I take some of the responsibility out of his hands, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah, I don't understand Jeff Wilson getting one carry. Is Jeff Wilson your decoy of, they figured that this is going to be a big Jeff Wilson game, so we can only give it to him one time? I didn't understand. I loved what Miami was doing in the first quarter. It was just an execution thing. But you're right. As the game was going on, where is the run? That didn't look like the Dolphins offense. That didn't look like a McDaniel offense at all in that second half. They were taking what was not working and still not learning from it at that point. So I loved what McDaniel did to start, but like you said, hopefully this is a learning experience for both he and Tua. And if from what we know about both Tua and McDaniel, this is going to really chap their ass for the next week, and I hope it does, because that's the only way that the Dolphins can keep getting better and become an actual threat in the AFC, is if they learn from shit like this and apply it moving forward.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to be humble. It's good that this happened now and it didn't happen, wild card or divisional round, because every team just needs to be humble, just needs to be able to say, okay, I'm not the hottest Coca-Cola in the desert. That's a phrase in Spanish. I'm not the top dog here. I need to be vigilant of what's going on. Like last year, the King of Finland on Twitter, shout out to him. He put out a good tweet. He just said the Bills lost to the Jaguars 6-9 last year, the league worst Jaguars, and Josh Allen threw for 250 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. And then they still went on to have a good postseason, still went on to have a good season. Good teams bounce back. Good teams respond. Next week, prime time against the Chargers, an AFC rival, but that game has implications. That's a game that you're going to see, who are we? Are we going to cry in the corner because we lost the game finally, or are we going to come back and remind the NFL who we are? Are we going to come back and be a little more balanced on offense? So next week is going to be huge for everybody on this team. This week, everybody needs to be in that film room and look at all the film from this game. And it's going to hurt them. And you're going to feel terrible. You're going to feel like, damn, I did that. Why did I do this? And that's how you grow. Feeling bad about your mistakes, learning from them, and improving on them.
All right, so here's what we're going to have to talk about now. Because we just lost to a team that is a very well-regarded team, a very powerful team. Okay, we've got to give respect to San Francisco, because they're not a nothing team. We all knew that going in. That's why most of us picked them to win the game at the end of the day. So where do we go from here? We got to go face Los Angeles now. So what's the first thing you want to see when they go against the Chargers?
The same thing we saw all season. The same Miami Dolphins we come to know.
Okay, but what is that though, Andy? Because again, this is the question. Right now, what we're complaining about is the fact that the Miami Dolphins do not have a balanced football team. Right now what we're complaining about is the way that they've won these games is basically just saying, you know what, we don't need the running game. We'll just throw the ball everywhere. And we honestly feel like we're sitting here right now having this discussion, basically saying that, you know what, that's not how you win long-term in the NFL. Even Patrick Mahomes, to some extent, has a running game to lean on a little bit. Like, I am sure that they have more than 8 total carries for the entire game. Like, you didn't even get into double digits with your running game. For me, that's unacceptable. I'm sorry. I've always been the one to say that you need a balanced offense if you're going to be able to make it long term. And what 49ers did today, that was a balanced offense. They had plenty of running. They ran the ball with Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and whoever else you want to throw in there. And they were able to do short passing game. They were able to do intermediate passing game. They didn't really do deep passing game, but they didn't really need to. They basically made it super, super easy for Brock Purdy to come in here and basically be like, okay, just do this and we'll be just fine. What did Miami do? Did Miami do that? Or did they basically say, Tua, we have no plan besides you being awesome. Go out and be awesome. And he couldn't rise to the occasion. Now, if you want to blame Tua for not being able to rise to the occasion, okay, well, I mean, at that point, I'm going to say I'm going to give him a little bit of a break. I won't give him a break for his performance, but I will say to go out there and basically say, hey, Tua, you're our plan. That's not a plan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be a little more of what we saw versus the Browns, where Jeff Wilson had 17 carries, Monster got his carries. That was a balanced offense, and that game, our offense did incredibly well. Tua did incredibly well. That's what I want to see more when I say the Dolphins that we know. The Dolphins that we know since Tua came back from that concussion. They ran it more against the Lions. They ran it more against the Browns, against the Texans. But a more balanced offense, and on defense, just don't make no more boneheaded play calls. I don't want to see Jerome Baker on Everett, their tight end. I don't want to see Jerome Baker ever cover Eckler. Don't do that. Play him to his strengths. Don't put him on man. I don't want to see that. That's for sure.
Well, if you want to see running the ball, the Chargers are exactly who you want to be going up against. Considering the Chargers give up 5.5 plus yards per carry, basically anyone and everyone shreds them on the ground. Josh Jacobs had another big game against them today. So if you want sort of a get right game for the running back, a little come to Jesus, back to what McDaniel came to Miami to do, you have to think Wilson and Mostert will have big games against the Chargers. And when you have big games on the ground, that can open up one of the big things that makes Tua so deadly is what he does in the play action game. And so I think that this is a good get right. This is a good defense for them to go up against to try and get back to what they want to do. And like Andy said, if you can avoid those just killer penalties and stay out of those down in 20s, down in 25s, and stay ahead of the chains, you can get back to what made this an 8-3 football team, now 8-4.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. I'm just checking out the Chargers games, and every game they're giving up 100 plus rushing yards a game. Like, if you don't run against this Charger defense, then you're just saying I don't want to run the ball.
We can get 11 guys from the comments and put one of them at running back, and I think we could probably get at least 80.
Which, by the way, most of the people in the comments are 49ers fans right now. We're getting raided. It's like a Twitch raid right now.
I can tell.
So, again,
let them have their moment. Let them have their moment.
We'll give credit to the 49ers where it's due. Again, remember, we actually picked the 49ers to end up winning this game, most of us, except for you, because I don't know why you didn't do it, but that's fine. It's fine. I understand. But either way, anything else we want to discuss before we call it here? I mean, I feel like we've covered everything. Again, Tua, not good. We knew this when he wasn't good. I don't know about Mike McDaniel. I'm going to say him too, not good. And to some extent, Josh Boyer. I'm going to give the defense more of a break because they had their moments too. But also I gotta say this real quick. Tackling. How in the ever living, are 4 Dolphins unable to take down Deebo Samuel, and all he had to do was duck. It's not like he didn't even think super special. He just went down, and everybody else was expecting a head-on tackle. He didn't do anything. All he did was just duck, and he was able to get out of that.
That wasn't just 4 Dolphins.
That's not a Deebo move. That's I'm going down because I don't want to get killed move, and somehow they didn't kill him. They didn't get him.
That was Bradley Chubb, Javon Holland, I believe Christian Wilkins were 3 of the 4. And thank God for Landon Roberts, or else that's 6. In one of the most embarrassing 6s you can see. I will say one of the very, very few positives I could take from this was the defensive line had some moments. Chubb and Phillips were running free.
By the way, does anybody else feel like did anybody feel like Bradley Chubb did not let up on that sack or that would be sack on I can't even remember. He should have absolutely strip sacked Brock Purdy there, but I think he was afraid he was going to get called for roughing the passer, so he backed off.
Yeah,
he stepped off and
Purdy just pushed him
to the ground.
Yeah.
So
one of the few positives, Xavier Howard had a comeback game. The secondary did pretty decently today, so one of the few positives you could look at. And Tyreek Hill is that guy. He is that guy. You can say that today.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is there's three players that you absolutely need for the Dolphins to have success. Tyreek Hill, Teron Armstead, and Tua, not necessarily in that order. But I feel like after this game, it's Tua, Teron Armstead, and Tyreek Hill. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Tua has time to throw, he'll find the likes of Trent Sherfield. If Tua has time to throw, he'll find Mike Gesicki. If Tua has time to throw, he'll find River Craycraft. Or at the very least, perceived time. Because he did have time to throw. But he didn't think he had time to throw. And that was his problem. Without Armstead, and we saw it earlier in the season, too. If we saw it earlier in the season, Teron Armstead, remember that during that drive against the Baltimore Ravens? And Armstead turned around and looked at Tua and basically just did this, relax, calm down. And how much of an effect just doing that had on Tua? Teron Armstead was not there to do that this game. And Tua looked like he was ready to jump off a window. Like he was running. He looked like he was nervous. He looked like he was scared. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Armstead wasn't there to basically tell him, relax, calm down. Tua's not there yet. This is his first year really having anybody who actually believes in him. And now he kind of feels like he has this expectation that he has to be perfect all the time because that's kind of what we've placed on him. Now, I'm not going to say that's our fault. It's still his fault. He needs to play better. But guys like that, I'm kind of like that guy. I feel like I have to be better all the time. And I can get in my own head. I need to stop doing that. Just need to bring it to an end. So
I really like that point you brought up about Armstead and his leadership because when you look at, our offense, he is like, Tua is the QB. He's the point guard, but the leader is Armstead. Everybody else is a young player. You have Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill's not really like a vocal leader mid-game.
Well, he's vocal. He's definitely a vocal leader. I'm not going to take that away from him. But there's only so much Tyreek can do. Like he's not. The games are won in the trenches. That's the whole situation.
And the experience, that Armstead brings. He's been in the league, 11, 12 years, and he's still doing it. So, we missed that today. We did miss that.
Yeah. All righty. Are you ready to call it here?
Yeah, I just sent something in the chat. Jimmy G apparently broke his foot and is done for the year. We're going to see a lot of Brock Purdy.
Well, we're not going to see a lot of Brock Purdy.
Three of us.
All the people in the chat are going to see a lot of Brock Purdy because they're all 49ers fans.
Yeah, they won the battle, but they're going to lose the war at that point then. I don't see them making much noise the rest of the season.
Congratulations, San Francisco 49ers. You definitely beat us. I'm not going to take that away from you. But as far as the rest of the season, Miami, which is still a Miami show, don't forget. We still have this season's not over yet. On to Los Angeles. All right. For everybody who's still watching, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you having us here. And hey, even you 49ers people out there, if you haven't already decided to try to make some money in your life, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you go on there to use your daily fantasy sports games. You can go ahead and you can pick 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 6 different players to win up to 25 times the amount that you put in. Just a lot too long ago, I actually ended up winning $500 on a $20 bet for NBA of all things, considering I'm not an NBA guy. This is really wild. So what are you waiting for? If you're a Dolphins fan, a 49ers fan, or if you're not even an NFL fan, you just somehow ended up here because YouTube algorithm is weird. Go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE. They will match up to $100 on your initial deposit instantly. You can use that on your own time. Don't have to bet it all at once. They're just going to give you $100 just for signing up using our promo code. All right, so With all that said and done, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you all next time for another episode of The Final Yard. We do have other stuff coming up. Extra Yard on Monday with Alex Dono and Troy Stratford. To Pulse of Fins Nation with myself, Ron Canev, and maybe if I'm lucky, Chad Ronnebaum and Alfredo Artiaga will pop in again Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And of course, every before every game, we do have Yard Prep here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Plenty of Dolphins content coming your way, so make sure you're tuning in for that. We'll see you all next time.